Okay, hey, this is Stasia.
Jake.
And this video we're going to introduce the koshas, or the body sheaths, and in particular the first one, but generally just giving you the 5 koshas that we're going to work with in this series. And that is the physical body, which in Sanskrit is the Annamaya kosha. That's what we're going to talk about today. Then we have the pranamaya kosha, that's the breath body or the energy body. The manamaya kosha, the vijnanamaya kosha, and the anandamaya kosha. So,
what are the last 3?
The mind, the higher mind or the inspiration field, and the bliss body.
So you have physical body, breath body, mind, then higher self essentially, and bliss body, like pure consciousness that everything comes out of. All right.
So most of us, we just identify the physical body, right? So that's the first layer, that's the Annamaya kosha, and it's really just the matter that we can see and feel and dissect and all that.
So when people are talking about like chakras and whatnot, they kind of misconstrue things and say like, well, your first chakra is like your sense of safety and financial and like whatever else, but I try to think of it as more like moving from physical matter to kind of more ethereal, whatever way of being. Is that kind of the same thing with the koshas?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to go from denser you, right, to subtler and subtler you. The second body is usually easy for most people too, because the prana body you can access through your breath. And the breath body is the body that we usually experience at least a good part of our emotions through. I'd say the manamaya field and the pranamaya field are both part of the emotional body, you know. But yeah, you're going from denser to finer, and ultimately your bliss body, like, you are connected to everything, and if you can like put your consciousness in the allness, that is a higher skill, right? That's a but it is like using your finer senses. Yeah.
So how would you go through like differentiating these like layers, I guess, to yourself? Is that fair to think about them as like layers?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, really just the Annamaya kosha is the physical body, so like you can touch it, you can feel it, you can move it. Everybody is aware of it. It's the 3D you.
Yeah.
So there's usually not a question about that body. The other bodies are what come into question, and a lot of people actually think their prana body is like not a body, it's just breath coming into your physical body, but it is actually a field, and we could kind of dip into that field today a little bit, because you know how you feel when you're out of breath or when breath is expired from you, and if you actually don't have prana anymore, you're dead.
Yeah.
Right? And as you take a breath in, you can actually feel an expansion in your Annamaya kosha, in your physical. And there's awareness there if you choose to take it, right?
Yeah, and I guess well, it'd be easy to just say this is part of it, but like if you're breathing a certain way, you're gonna be more like parasympathetically dominant breathing versus sympathetically dominated breathing. So there's that I guess would also be part of your breath body, just like what kind of state your body is in currently.
Right, and the way that you're breathing or the way you normally breathe is going to affect your actual physical body and the biology and physiology of the body, right?
Yeah.
You just mentioned the parasympathetic and sympathetic. I mean, we're going to produce different hormones in the body, which affects us physically, right?
Yeah.
Too much stress hormone, you're going to break down joints, you're going to like deteriorate actual tissue in the body if you're not, breathing in a way that is balancing you out.
I think the inverse of that is also true. This was like my own big realization that I had in my journey with yoga before, was like you can use like your breath as kind of a guidepost for like how your body is like aligned or misaligned, right? And if you have like really bad posture, or you're like hunched over and you're not breathing very well, your breath like as it's coming through is going to be inhibited or like altered in some ways that you're not going to be breathing most efficiently.
Absolutely.
And if you can get your physical alignment, like you know that your skeleton essentially is like in perfect physical alignment when you're able to breathe physically in it.
Easily.
It feels like slightly orgasmic to like just exist inside your body. Like if you're just in your body and feeling pain all the time, like, you know, something physically is misaligned, but you can also just use the ease, like the easiness of your breath as a meter, or like a way to read kind of your physical alignment.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I went and got a chiropractor adjustment today. I needed it so bad, and I don't go to chiropractor very much, but I breathe differently after that. Like, it is easier and with less pain. And I'm always telling my boy, who sometimes struggles with tightness of breath, that he's not standing up straight. Like, if you're not standing up straight, you're compressing over the lungs. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the breath is a good meter to tell where, you know, what's going on with your physical body. And all of the sensations that you get in your body is actually, prana is not just the breath in the lungs. Prana is actually translated as life force. So we have life force in all parts of our body, but actually if we don't have life force like constantly being sent everywhere, which can happen if we're stagnant in our movement, or if we have trapped emotions, like
Body keeps the score.
Body keeps the score. So then prana is not reaching certain parts of your physical body when that's the case. And then that's where, you know, dis-ease can manifest itself.
So we move from the physical body to the breath body, and you said that like the breath body and the energy body are like the same thing, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I always say when teaching yoga, wherever your attention goes, that's where your breath will go. And your prana rides on the breath. It's not the breath, but it uses the breath as like a boat almost, you know? It's like, you used the word vessel before, but it's like, if I'm thinking about my knee when I'm breathing, then not only am I more aware of my knee, but prana will actually increase in my knee as I breathe, because now I've just sent, you know, attention is part of life force management, or like, you know, you can bring attention to your entire body while you're breathing, then you're distributing the life force, you're distributing the prana everywhere. And in yoga they actually talk about 5 different kinds of prana, so we'll go into that in the next video, but different ways prana moves in your body. For an example is just like prana moves in through your lungs here, and when you like excrete it, prana is moving down. So those are two. There's prana that moves up, and there's prana that moves down. There's prana that moves sideways. There's lots of different ways that prana moves in the body based on what your body does in those areas. Yeah,
that's interesting. This is kind of cool. Thinking about the breath and whatnot. Those like exercises and stuff that I'm learning about is basically all about like how to get targeted expansion in your ribs and like different areas of your body. And yeah, I've been doing those, and like it's pretty cool. You start having like kind of weird like emotional releases, or just like, I don't know, interesting emotional experiences will come up once you like find a way to open up. Like for me, up here is like really compressed in my ribs, right? So as I've been like kind of opening that up more, like I can't really articulate like what the emotional experiences are that like I'll have with that kind of breathing, and once I get expansion there, but I do always feel like something that I've been like holding on to has like been released.
Yeah, because I mean, definitely the body keeps score. So like you have an emotional experience, something happens and you aren't able to fully process it through. So however you're holding your body at that time, or if you're doing like a repetitive motion, even like eating, like you're eating and somebody says something that's just like, and you don't want to say anything, that emotion stays either in that arm movement in a particular area, or like in the stomach, right? So now you're getting into those places and opening them up with breath, then that emotion can finally come out because you've relocated it.
I wonder, well, like, how exactly like different areas of your body like store different kinds of trauma. Like if it's really just like a negative experience with some kind of emotion that you're doing, I probably got like so much negative emotions like in this action doing push-ups, like, oh, you're a piece of shit. Like, oh my god, you know.
Well, and I mean, some things
maybe.
register more like a trauma than other things, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, our negative self-talk that gets more into the third field, right? Our Maya kosha can hold impressions too. And a lot of times that's the field that keeps us from going into the bliss body.
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's definitely true. And like for me, taking ayahuasca or like trying DMT and whatnot, like I'm always like, I'll have some kind of a weird experience, but I always get stopped by something that I can tell like is from within here,
Totally in the mind.
right?
Mhm.
And like I'll have do meditations and stuff too, where like I'm able to like leave my body but still kind of like perceive my mind or whatever. And depending on the dream that like I have or the vision I guess that I have, like I can tell that I'm either seeing something that's like purely from within my mind or something from like outside my mind, and I'm actually like interacting with like somebody else or something else. Yeah, man. But like anytime I've done ayahuasca, like I've never had that like, okay, well I'm just like one with like the great mother or whatever they call it, like the pure bliss place that you can get to. I've never had that, and I've always been stopped by something. Like I'm going up a mountain, something is here. And it's
Mana
just,
Maya
like,
kosha, for sure. That's also where a lot of our societal programs get launched, right? Because we have like a collective mind, a collective Mana Maya kosha, if you will, because it's bigger than our pranic field, right? It's connected to us. Telepathy accesses this mind. So like, you ever thought of somebody and then they call you, or
yeah, that happens to me quite a bit. Like usually, like there's kind of different flavors, I'll say, to like different thoughts and whatnot that I'll get. Like whether it's something that feels inspiring or something that feels like it came from somewhere else, I'll think about somebody and then all of a sudden they'll give me a call like 2 days later, or I
yeah.
don't know,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So bringing it back to the Annamaya kosha and just kind of tying in the first chakra there, because the first chakra is situated not as a physical component, but as an energetic component in the root, or in the like pelvic floor, you could say, or the base of the spine. And it is responsible for us being completely in our body. Like that's how I like to think about it. Like if we're completely in our body, that means our consciousness is inhabiting this form as much as it can. And this is actually something really hard for most humans to do, because we tend to live in our Mana Maya kosha. We tend to live in our actually emotional body and our mental field. And we tend not to inhabit our body, which is one, I think, why we have so much dis-ease or illness, or like these kinds of things in our reality. Not only because of maybe negative systems that don't really help, but also because we don't really live in our bodies. We use them, we sit around in them, but we're constantly up here, and so we're not really inhabiting. Therefore, like it's like our pain or our illness is just a way of getting our body, it's like trying to get us to pay attention.
That's
Forgot about me.
I definitely have been finding that to be true. I'm trying to like do more to like get my like awareness like into just my body sensations. And if you look at like brainwave patterns, I don't remember which one is which. I think that alpha is like when you're awake and you're doing stuff, and then beta is like slight like sleepy, kind of drowsy, but it's where more of your attention is like placed inside your body. And that's the whole concept with like non-sleep deep rest.
Yeah, actually, alpha brainwave is the meditative.
Is the meditative? Okay.
That you want to access so that you're the most present.
Yeah, and if you like can keep yourself like in that state where like most of your awareness is coming from like your physical sensations within your body, then you kind of stay in that state. And for me, like I'm able to absorb more information and just like witness more and actually pay more attention, versus like when I'm actively like trying to think about something, and like
For sure.
it only goes so far. Yeah, dude. So I'm doing a whole lot of that, like trying to get my words up here to like shut off and just like feel more of my body.
Yeah, and yoga nidra is a really awesome practice for embodiment. Even though it's a meditation that you're like laying still and thinking through, it's bringing the attention and therefore the increased prana flow to all parts of the body. And it actually does bring you into alpha brainwave state.
So what's the next one past your mind kosha?
So Vyanmana Maya Kosha, Vijnana Maya Kosha.
Vijnana Maya Kosha.
So now you're getting into, like you said, higher self, or like this is where you're way up here in the chakras, your third eye is activated. So you're able to witness in that place. Like a lot of people who are in their lower mind, they're not able to witness. They're still attached to what's going on. They're very much like personality in a situation. But
So like being stuck in the context of what you're doing versus like being kind of the observer of the situation that you're having.
right. So Vijnana is meaning like wisdom or knowledge. So it's like the part of you that knows better. That's what I like to think of it. The mind that knows. So it's able to witness. It's also able to access like inspiration or intuition because it's not caught up in what makes sense, right? Lower mind is more logical mind.
Yeah.
Vijnana Maya Kosha
This
is,
is where like the magic of the universe is allowed to flow, and where you
Yes.
get like, oh, I'm gonna go to the park, and then you meet somebody who's like, oh,
Exactly.
hey, exactly the person that you needed to meet.
right. And so that's where the bliss body or the Anandamaya Kosha is flowing down into Vijnana, right? Because bliss body you're accessing through the crown. If we're talking about chakras, like this is where you're accessing unity. If your gates open here, you know that you're not separate. But so like to get to that place, you're going beyond the mind and into that place where you're in surrender. I think of Vijnana Maya Kosha as like a surrendered place. It's a prayerful place. It's a place where you, like you said, the magic, you believe in the magic is available to you, you follow the synchronicities. That's not a really like lower mind logical action, right?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm like stuck, is like trying to do the existential kink stuff, right? And like I said this earlier, but say I'll have a situation like I was driving and my car wasn't registered or something, or like my registration was expired, and I start like kind of panicking about like, okay, well what's probably going to happen is I'm going to get pulled over and be like, yes officer, I just now realized that my like car was not, my car was my registration expired 7 months ago, and like panicking about it. And like I can sit here and try and feel like, well, this is blissful, like the current thing that I'm doing, but then like it never actually like enables it to fall away, you know, and let the like moment rise, have it say, and then just like disappear. I have to kind of see above that a little bit from that like outer perspective and be like, okay, what am I actually doing right now? Because like the exact words of what's happening doesn't matter. I'm foreseeing negative events, right? I'm like, okay, well, I'm like instead of saying, yeah, I love like imagining a cop is going to come and pull me over and give me a ticket, I start imagining like, okay, well, I love the fact that I'm like I seem to love to give myself things to like feel anxiety over, or like distress about the future, you know?
So pause there, because what really is wanting to be accessed there is a connection to your Anamaya Kosha, your physical body. So an event comes up and your body actually wants to feel a sensation. Like it's less about the experience of the mind or the emotion or like the interlude with the cop or whatever. That feeling that's like, you're calling it anxiety, but if you don't put that label on it and you literally just look at the physical sensation, like what happens if I think about the potential of that happening, the cop or whatever, like in my body, like what's happening, and you might feel like my heart's beating faster, like my stomach gets clenched up, maybe I'm sweating in my palms, and maybe I feel like sweat, and so those sensations, not like they're divorced from the mind in that moment. Like if you just get those physical sensations, what you're wanting to, and I think what Carolyn Elliott or Lovewell was trying to say in that book too, is you're wanting to get in your body, like you wanted those physical sensations, so you manufactured these events to give you those sensations. And if you recognize that you like when your heart beats fast, when your stomach clenches up, when your hands slightly sweat, and you like give that to yourself, well, there's lots of ways you can get those feelings. Like you don't have to get them through expired registration. You could get them through liking a girl. You could get them through deciding to speak on stage. You could get them through other ways. But if you give it to yourself, then you realize, oh, actually, I like to feel not just comfortable in my body, but a little bit.
So it's kind of like your consciousness trying to like, hey, you need to pay more attention to your body, essentially, is what's going on there.
Yeah, and what body sensations are you enjoying and actually calling in, right? Yeah, because we can say like we want something, we want to manifest something, we want a great job, or we want, like we can say these things that we want, but there's sensations in the body that are associated with getting those things, right? And I don't know if you've heard this a lot of times, but I definitely have people that get something that they want, but then they lose it because they can't like manage the emotion about having it.
Yeah.
Like sabotage relationships or jobs or whatever, because once you actually have it, there's physical sensations associated with that you're not familiar with, right? So if we practice, like, it's almost like these other situations are practice experiences. Like, here, practice feeling good about heart beating fast, like stomach clenching, like practice why you like that feeling, like break it down to the body sensations, get back to the Anamaya Kosha, feel that your body actually just wants you to be present with it, engage with it, acknowledge it, have gratitude, that you can even have your heart beating fast, that you can even have your stomach clenching, Yeah.
I think I'll try that next time, like I do that, because I'm always like trying to think like, okay, there's something that like the bliss body like clearly loves about like this experience that I'm having, but like
It also
can't
loves the
figure out,
body
like, how to
sensations.
get to it. Yeah, and I don't really like think about that, and I definitely spend like a lot more time in my head, which is why like some kind of a physical practice is like so critical for my life, honestly. And movement is life. If you don't have a life where you can move, then I'm sorry, but you don't really have a life, and like it's that critical. But
Yeah.
yeah, dude, trying to find ways to like get back into your body is definitely good for several reasons. One of them is like if you want to get out of your head and get into your body, right? But like
I also think of it like if the bliss body is the largest part of self, is the oneness, is the love, it also wants to know what the physicality feels like. That's one reason we manifest in density. So we in density want to feel what the oneness feels like, but the oneness wants to feel what the physicality feels like. So that bridge is all these body sensations, and like really getting present with those and being like, yeah, this is cool.
Makes sense. So to recap, your physical body, your breath body, your mind, which technically is your emotions as well, your lower mind, and then your breath body, your mental body, and then higher self body, right? And then your bliss body.
And I'd say your emotions straddles your pranic field and your mental field, because your emotions can be very tied to, you're not sending prana to a certain place, or you're overly, like you could be overly in your emotion about something, and that restricts your prana flow, right?
That's true. There's also like certain breath patterns that like are very present during different emotions, like when you're angry.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And
so it's changing your mind and your prana. So the emotions, that's why they're like tucked in there, in my opinion. Yeah. And I might name it as another field altogether.
I think I like the idea of like these koshas, better than like trying to think about the chakras, because like just most of the stuff that you hear about chakras is like none of this makes sense, and I'm certain that like 95% of the information out there has like nothing to do with what like the chakras like originally were, right? Which is supposed to be like
I can't
plates.
wait for our chakra conversations then.
Yeah, dude. And trying to locate areas of your body and like feel basically all of it to me is just trying to find ways to sense like your energetic body, which basically means the mental and like the intangible experience that you can have of being you. And all of these things are just different ways to like compartmentalize them, right?
Yeah, eventually it's once you have those compartmentalized awarenesses, you can dissolve it into the oneness again, for sure.
Yeah.
But our minds do like to understand the parts.
Yeah, you do need to have ways to like differentiate things and kind of measure them in order to like really understand what's going on.
Yeah, and so to end with a really great practice, it's a simple practice to get your awareness into your physical body and into your first chakra, which we'll talk about during the chakra series, but it really is about becoming more present and more embodied. And if you're more embodied, the result is, what they say about the first chakra, you trust life more, like you have more flow of abundance. If you're not present physically, it's really hard to trust life. Like you feel a scarcity, you feel like
Yeah.
disconnected, right? It's because you're not present in your
That's when
body.
yeah, that's honestly for sure like what happened to me in my dark period of life. Was like went from doing yoga for like 4 hours a day and just like feeling great inside my body, and like even if like something bad arose and like I got really scared about something, like okay, I could just like wander off until like my mind like was done with that experience, and then just like return to being in my body, and I could feel peace,
Yeah.
you know, and just like be like, you know what, whatever moment I'm having right now, this present moment, like is totally fine. Like I'm content. Definitely lost the ability to do that, and like became a lot more anxious and like suspicious of people.
So one movement that's actually called a master lock in yoga, and I talked to you about this the other day, but the Mula Bandha lock, it actually is the master lock. It's like the key is our consciousness, and this is like the master lock, and it really is all about just clenching your pelvic floor, like pulling it up, or the same muscles that you would stop the flow of urine. So like if you have your spine straight and you just pull up the pelvic floor,
Yeah.
and then you release it, and then you pull it up and you release it. It's amazing how much of your consciousness gets in your body when you do this just a few times. Like it's almost like you really have to think about your body to do it, and like to feel that. And because our hips and our legs are the parts that ground us to the earth and that we move around within our body, it increases circulation to that part of the body and moves any stagnant energy to just clench and release this part. And it's also known as a pump, so we'll get into this in later discussions, but it also is responsible for pumping that life force energy up your spine. So just simply like clenching and releasing, and you can do it with your breath too. Inhale,
Inhale,
pull it up,
clench,
exhale,
release.
which is a nice like surrender.
This is kind of an interesting thing too. There's this exercise that I just learned about that kind of helps you like the like postural realignment stuff that like I really get into. Like when it comes to yoga and all this stuff, I'm more about like the physical body and like your actual physical alignment. That's just what brought me to yoga. Is like the orientation of your hips, right? If you have one hip that like can't go a certain way and like one hip that's kind of stuck another way, right? You're not going to have like total pelvic floor access. And it turns out your hips, your ribs, everything like expands, right? When you inhale, exhale. So if you're like externally rotating, like at your thighs, right? Breathe in, and then like internally rotate at your thighs as you breathe out. It's kind of helps you, I guess, get more control over your pelvic floor and just kind of.
And how similar that is to doing that lock. Because
Yeah.
when you release, you automatically rotate out. If you really just let your bottom go, you know. And if you clench, it's like natural to turn in to really get it to tighten up in there, right? And you can do that in any posture. You know, you can be standing up and like get into some weird posture, and then Mula Bandha lock, you tighten up everything and then release too.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right.
That's a wrap. Okay. See you next time.